crust can be a little tricky. So I have a recipe that is a little bit easier to work with. What you're gonna need is a pound of vegetable shortening. It comes in its own size container, so that's pretty easy to find. You want that to be cold. A stick of unsalted butter, also cold. About 6 cups of flour, an egg, some lemon juice, and some salt. On the side, we're gonna have a cup of ice water, and that's a very key ingredient. You want the water that you're gonna use to be very cold. We're gonna take all the ingredients and we're gonna put them together in our bowl. We're gonna combine our shortening and our butter, and then we're going to add in the flour. You don't need to add it all in right away because we're gonna cut it together and determine really how much we need. There's a couple different ways to cut your ingredients together. One uses a pie knife or a pastry knife, so you can work those together. And the idea is to break up the butter and the shortening into smaller pieces. Now, if you don't have the pastry knife, you can use 2 regular knives and you're just gonna cut them together like so. And again, you're cutting up the shortening and the butter into smaller pieces, essentially. We also want to add in our salt, about a teaspoon of that. It'll go in with our dry ingredients and continue to cut it together. Once those are combined, we want to combine our lemon juice, egg, and some water. We're gonna just break that egg up. This is our cheat ingredient, the egg, because that's gonna bind things together and make your pie crust much more easy to spread. We're gonna put some ice water into with our egg and our lemon juice. And again, just combine that together. Then we're going to add that to what we already have combined, and that's going to start to bind it all together. So we'll just kind of move it all over to one side and combine the ingredients. Work a small section at a time, and that's just going to make it a lot easier. And then again, we'll add a little bit more and combine it together. You can start to see a dough forming here. And you don't want to overwork the dough because it'll make a mushy crust. Get this out of the way. And then continue to work our ingredients together. If you find that it's not quite wet enough, you can always add a little bit more water to it. But we want to distribute the egg all nice and evenly throughout before we add more, so that it's just all blended evenly. Once we have everything combined together, you'll start to see a doughy texture similar to that of Play-Doh. We can combine it into a ball. And this recipe will make several crusts, depending on how thick you like your crust, how thin you're able to roll it, and also whether you're using a single or double pie crust recipe. So you can make some smaller balls of dough that you're gonna set aside and let refrigerate for a while. And that's gonna help just set up the ingredients, kind of combine them together, let the gluten activate, and let the fats in here stiffen up a little bit, and that's gonna make it easier to spread. So we've rolled it into a ball, and we're gonna flatten it out into a disc. I'd probably separate this recipe into about 3, and then we're going to put it in a bag and let that go in the refrigerator for a little while. And if you want to freeze it, if you don't intend to use this right away, you can put them in the freezer like this as well. And then you have them on hand for the future. So we've taken our pie crust out of the refrigerator after it's rested there for a little while. And now we're ready to roll it out into a crust. You want to start with a clean, well-floured surface so that your crust doesn't stick to anything. So just flip it over once or twice so the bottom of it gets some flour on there. And then our rolling pin, again, you're going to want to flour that well so that it doesn't stick to that. And then you're just going to start in the center and work your way out. You want to try to get it evenly thinned out and into as much of a circle shape as you can. But don't worry about that so much because we can always trim it off later. Continue to add flour to it so that again it doesn't stick, and make sure that you can lift it off from your surface without it falling apart. We're going to continue to spread out the dough until it's about the size of our pan. So here's an easy way to size it up. You're going to obviously want the crust to go into the side, so we probably have to spread it out a little bit further than where we've got it now. Again, just keep flouring everything so it doesn't stick. And then we're ready to transfer it to our pie pan. If that happens, you just smash it back together. Not a big deal. So we can kind of roll it onto our rolling pin here, and that's going to make things a little bit easier to transfer. And then unroll it right back into our pan. Then we want to press it in and repair any broken spots that we have. Kind of work your way around it and push it down into the bottom of the pan. And then we want to trim it so we can get rid of any of the extra spots here. Alright, so just go around the edge and just trim it off. Now if you have spots where it's too short, like we'll have here, take some of what you cut off and patch it. And again, just push it together and trim it. There's a bunch of different ways you can edge your crust. Kind of a quick one is just to pinch it together and continue to go around the edge. And then you bake it according to whatever recipe you're making. Voila!